What is going on, guys? Today we are doing the Week 7 grades for the Dallas Cowboys against the Washington football team. And man, I can go and tell you it's not going to be good. So let's go and get started. Let's go and jump into it and start at quarterback and Andy Dalton and Ben DiNucci, right? So the way I look at it, when your offense puts up 0 points, which they basically did, because I believe the one field goal we did have came off of the Tony Pollard kick return that was like a 60-yard return. So I'm not going to give the offense any credit for that. I think the highest grade you can really get is a C, in my opinion, and that's if you make no other mistakes. Andy Dalton made one pretty big mistake, which was right before halftime. Finally had a little drive together, and we could have made it 10 to 22 at the half, and maybe we'd had an ounce of a chance going into that second half, or at least had just a little bit of energy. And he threw a ball a little bit behind Ezekiel Elliott. I guess you could put a little bit of blame on Elliott because it hit him in the hands and the shoulder. But I would put most of that blame on Andy Dalton for throwing it behind him. So I'm going to give him a D. Just because the offensive line was horrible. So Dalton didn't have a lot of opportunities to be great. But when he could, he wasn't. But, I mean, he did hit his guys, so what do you really expect out of Andy Dalton in that scenario, I'm guessing? Would we be better off with a quarterback that can run a little? Maybe, because our offensive line has been that bad, and I know we're going to get a couple guys back hopefully this week. But it was a rough game. Ben DiNucci came in and dealt with a lot of the same things. He did make one really good throw to Amari Cooper, 32-yard pass. Only thing I want to mention about that one interception is maybe Mike McCarthy has the wrong idea lining up Ezekiel Elliott as a wide receiver. And I noticed Elliott and Pollard have been lining up a lot in the slot this year. Garrett used to not do that so much, I feel like. And it just seems like it's not working out, right? Elliott's just not a great receiver. You saw it there. I don't know if the timing was poor. So it's hard for me to put all the blame for throwing it behind Zeke on Andy Dalton. But either way, we got so many weapons at wide receiver. Why are we running slants to Ezekiel Elliott when we could to Michael Gallup, who didn't get hardly any passes his way, or CeeDee Lamb, or Amari Cooper? So that's how I look at it. We also have a couple tight ends who can catch the ball as well. So I'm going to give Andy Dalton and the QB group a D, but it was one of those things where the situation was just up against them. They didn't really have much to work with. Moving on to running back, and I already named the thing that Zeke really struggled with was the one interception. There was one pass blocking play where he just got ran over, and if you want to blame Zeke, okay, it's kind of tough for me to decide who's at fault there. If Zeke could have had better positioning, or if the 6'240" linebacker was just going to run over whoever was in his way, and that's kind of what it seemed like to me. Either way, Zeke didn't have a great game, and running backs in general did not have a great game. Tony Pollard averaged like 2 yards per carry, and he got some attempts. So you can't blame the coaching for not giving him burn. I mean, they did. Now, did they get him involved well? Did they do a good job at getting him involved? Maybe not. Maybe they could have made it a little better on both running backs. But I think Zeke did a little better than Pollard, in my opinion, but it wasn't great. So I'm thinking C or D for running backs. And probably C, because Zeke didn't fumble the ball, didn't have his sleeves on. Maybe that's why, maybe not. Who knows, right? So we'll move on to the wide receiver group. And guys, it was a tough day for the receivers. Washington, obviously, it started with a defensive line, so it didn't give us much time for the play to develop. But also, Washington's secondary was really good. They basically shut down Michael Gallup. And they did a great job at stopping CeeDee Lamb as well. And Lamb had a couple drops here and there. So it wasn't great. Now, Amari Cooper played a nice game for the second consecutive week in a row. And that was an away game, finally, where he did well. So that's, I guess, a bright spot. But he was really the only bright spot, in my opinion. If I'm going with a receiver group as a whole, again, it's got to be like a C at best. And probably closer to a D, if I'm being completely honest with myself. Yeah, they just didn't do great. Tight end, we saw some more good things at tight end. Blake Bell's blocking was actually really good. Pass blocking, um, and as well as in the run game. So he did a great job. Dalton Schultz blocking, not so much, but and I do think he gave up a sack, as a matter of fact, because I was looking up who gave up the 6 sacks. I think he was one of them. But he did have a nice catch on a little rollout from Dalton. And that was just a good play call, right? So that worked out in our favor. Gave Schultz a little easy catch, and he got like 10, 15 yards out of that. So I do like what I see out of the tight end group. And I guess if I'm going to give anybody more than a C, I could give them like a C+. Maybe B minus, but I mean, it's not like they went out and did anything great. I was impressed with Blake Bell's blocking, though. I mean, he was arguably, I can't talk today, arguably better than anybody on the offensive line for that matter, and that's the T. Now, speaking of said offensive line, we've been talking a lot earlier in the season about Tyler Biadasz, who wanted to see him play, and this was his worst game yet, I think. And Terrence Steele was as bad as ever. And the rest of the line and pass blocking was sort of okay. Now, would I call them like good starters? Heck no. But I would say they did their best as far as, God, who's even out there? Cameron Irving, Connor Williams, and Connor McGovern. I mean, Connor Williams is really the only starter, and I guess you could say he was the best player on the offensive line. Not by much, but he was a little bit better than everybody else, I would say. Now, moving forward, if we do have Zach Martin back and maybe even Joe Looney, then we have to adjust and just take Terrence Steele out of the game, right? So whether it be moving Zach Martin to right tackle and Joe Looney to right guard, which I'm okay with, or what I would really prefer is moving Connor Williams from left guard to right tackle, considering he played tackle in college. I think he played left tackle at Texas. But then we could put Looney at left guard, keep Zach Martin, our best offensive lineman, and by far in his natural position at right guard, and Biadasz at center. So just some thoughts there. As far as offensive line play goes overall, I'm giving them an F because they gave up 6 sacks, and they never really gave the offense a chance. And for the times where we were okay in pass blocking and protection when we weren't giving up the 6 sacks, we were always bad at trying to establish the run, and a lot of that is on that offensive line. So, yeah, I want to give them a better grade than an F, to be completely honest. Now we'll move on to the defensive line, and I'm going to separate that by defensive end and defensive tackle because it was 2 stories. I will say DeMarcus Lawrence and Everson Griffin, they may have both gotten sacks. They both got a few pressures, and they were both okay. Am I saying they were great? No. I mean, this wasn't like Aaron Donald versus Dallas. This wasn't, who's the guy for the Browns? Myles Garrett versus Dallas. But they did okay. This was easily the most we've seen out of Everson Griffin yet. So maybe that's a sign of good things to come. I would give the defensive ends, C+ maybe, because they definitely got some pressure throughout the game. Randy Gregory, didn't really get to see much of him. He didn't play a lot of snaps, so if you were expecting much of him, you didn't get anything. Alden Smith, God, did he get hurt? Now I'm having a hard time remembering. Anyways, he didn't really show up on the stat sheet, so if he was hurt, that's one thing. If not, he didn't play very well. Dorrance Armstrong, I remember having 1 pressure. So I guess you could take that for what it's worth. Now we'll move on to defensive tackle, which, guys, it wasn't good. You can give them a D if you want to. You can give them an F. But, I mean, talent-wise, they definitely are an F. Don Terry Poe was bad. Neville Gallimore was bad. Tyrone Crawford was the best out of all of them. So that's telling you how bad that group is. Who am I forgetting there? Somebody. But hey, Antoine Woods. So Antoine Woods, last play of the game, starting to fight with other guys on the team. So what's up with that, man? I don't know. So defensive tackle was bad. Moving on to linebackers, I'm going to give them an F. The best linebacker was Joe Thomas and his limited action. The second best linebacker, who even cares? Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch were so bad. And we were always saying, wait till Van Der Esch comes back because it'll make Jalen Smith play better. No, that's false. Fact check, false. It's just wrong. Just true, untrue. Jalen Smith sucked. He had that one good game in New York, and he's been bad since. Leighton Van Der Esch just hasn't looked good, period. I don't remember the last time he's looked like a good football player. Maybe sometime last season before he got hurt. I don't even remember. But it's been a while because when he started the season, that first half, he looked bad. I remember him looking bad at points last season too, so I don't know what the deal is with him or the linebacker group, but man, it's looking rough. The secondary, and I gave linebackers an F. The defensive back, I'm thinking D because the only one that doesn't deserve an F is Trayvon Diggs, and I mean he got burned on that one play by Scary Terry. He held him and he still got burned. And it's hard not to forget that play, but the rest of the game, Trayvon Diggs was definitely fighting out there, and he was giving effort, and he was making a couple plays here and there, especially later in the game. And he was defending Scary Terry most of the game. So there was a gnat that just flew across my face. But yeah, he was defending Scary Terry fairly well outside of that one play where he just got flat out burned. And I mean, don't get me wrong, Terry McLaurin got his, but he's a really good football player, easily the best weapon that Washington has. And I'll feel good about defending Diggs the way he played, despite one really bad play, based on the way everybody else looked. Jordan Lewis, Anthony Brown, maybe arguably his worst game ever. He was bad. So the defensive back unit in general, probably an F, but we'll move him up to a D just because I like a little bit of what I saw to Trayvon Diggs. He always flashes just a little bit of potential each week. Now I'll move on to the safety group, which honestly I'm gonna give them like a D plus because for the talent they have, they kind of played to their talent. I thought. Nobody on that safety unit has starter talent. I used to think Xavier Woods might. I was wrong. Donovan Wilson doesn't. Steven Parker, actually kind of like what I'm seeing out of him, but he's a backup safety, guys. Definitely want to keep him as a backup moving forward over a guy like Darian Thompson. I'm just going to tell you right now, he's a better tackler, better football player. So as far as a backup safety, keep Steven Parker on the team. But guys, please, and I'm talking to you, Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, please don't think that Steven Parker is a starting safety because he's not. But he's an okay backup. And Xavier Woods looked like an okay backup. So if you take a big group of backups and you start them, you know, they played relatively well, I guess. But it wasn't good. It was a D plus. Moving on to special teams, and you know, it's two sides of the story, right? So we had the big 60-something yard run by Tony Pollard, and that set us up for the only points of the game. Offense just couldn't cut it. We had one field goal, and we made one field goal. But at the same time, I'm just slightly concerned with Chris Jones. And I'm slightly concerned with the fact that we're losing field position battles pretty much every game. Now, I don't know if this one was really on special teams. I'd have to go back and watch. But I'm going to give them C or C+. I mean, they didn't do anything great. But the one kick return, I guess you could say that was great, right? That was a good return. I'd like to give Tony Pollard a little bit more credit than the special teams unit and special teams coaching especially in general. But give credit to whoever you want there. That was one of the few bright points of the game. Kellen Moore as offensive coordinator. I hadn't even really thought about him before I did this video. But I'm going to say it wasn't good. There's always a couple flashes here and there, right? But because he did do a little pre-snap motion here and there. There was one play that was like a sweep to Amari Cooper, got 5 yards, that kind of thing. But then he'll go back the next play where they're stuffing the box on 2nd and 5 and try and run the ball right into the 8-man box, and it's just killing us. So I don't even really want to give Kellen Moore a grade. Does he even deserve a grade? He was there. Mike Nolan, congrats on your still having a job because, man, if it wasn't for Mike McCarthy and if it wasn't for the GM group that you have that couldn't get fired, then you probably wouldn't have a job today. But nobody can hold Stephen Jones and Jerry Jones accountable. So I guess you'll be on part of the team as long as they want you to, right? Now, it's nothing against Mike Nolan as a person. I don't know the guy. Sure, he's a great guy. Not getting the job done. He gets an F. Again, he was there, but the defense wasn't there. The effort wasn't there. And one thing I forgot to mention for that offensive line is what the heck are you doing after Andy Dalton took the cheap shot that he took, and you get up, no emotion, nothing. It's pathetic that the offensive line did not have his back. When I was talking to all last week about the team needing more dogs, like Mark Colombo comes to mind. He would not have let that happen. I've mentioned Richie Incognito on the Raiders would not have let Derek Carr take a hit like that and not have a little something to get back for it. So just my thoughts, guys. Let me know in the comments what you think. I gave out mostly F's, D's, couple C's here and there. I don't think I gave out like a legitimate B. Maybe I did. Who knows? But make sure you smash that subscribe button for some more daily Dallas Cowboys content, and hopefully it won't be so negative moving forward. But I think by now we kind of know what to expect as Cowboys fans, right? It's not pretty, but maybe we'll have something interesting to talk about at least. We got, trade deadlines coming up, and odds are we're going to make, at least one move. I'm not saying it's going to be a big splash, but there's a couple interesting things out there. The Quinnen Williams defensive tackle in New York for the Jets, stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see what we do. Maybe start talking about the draft a little bit moving forward. And that's going to do it for today, guys. Make sure, again, I'll say it again, do me one favor and smash that subscribe button. Don't forget to like, comment, and I'm out. Peace!